short so that the matter could be absorbed easily, is how to create habit for new normal. And then I'll also not like to tell you that why and how this could be done in a stepwise manner, because that will take longer time. My point of emphasis would be to tell you is to help you develop the insight behind it, is to help you develop an awareness and orientation behind it. The reason being that we all being in the field of analytical sciences, we must realize that how such changes take place. If we are only forced or given guidance that you change your habit, first of all, we would not be able to do it because our brain is hardwired for that. And second of all, anytime that guidance comes repeatedly, we develop a resistance. So normally, as a parent, as a teacher, I have the habit of not giving guidance or suggestion to anybody, because we know that the moment you try to guide or give suggestion to somebody, the first thing comes is resistance. Therefore, the best way is to come out with some alternatives and allow the people to choose therefrom so that they own it. If they take a decision, they would be able to own it. So the ownership is a big issue, and that issue at an individual level I'm talking about. I'm not talking about an institutional level, because that's a bigger level. Governance is altogether a different ballgame. Administration is altogether a different ballgame. I'm talking at the individual level. If we really want to do it, we must understand the insight behind it, the science behind it, and then if we need to change our habit, we can do it. Changing habit is required not only is related to pandemic or face masking, hand washing, and deep cleansing or social distancing. Normally, we develop, each one of us has got some kind of bad habit. Some people have got nail biting habits. Some people have got moving leg syndrome or leg shaking habit. Some people have got mobile attachment. Some people have got, sleep problems. They get up very late, still don't feel rejuvenated because they sleep late at night. So a lot of wrong habits we at times develop. And at the same time, even if we try to get rid of it, we fail to do it. So let us first develop the insight behind it. Then I will tell you that if the pandemic goes away, because 2 years now gone, as World Health Organization has been saying that by 2022, pandemic will go away. Our problems will not instantly go away. What is that we should do at that point of time is also a concern. So, in order to unlearn the habits, let us try to understand the science behind it. The moment we do something very repeatedly, the brain develops certain neural networks. And that network, the formation of network actually is reinforced over repeated activity, and as a result of which we do certain things automatically. And it's important for brain to develop that network, because every time for every job, like teeth brushing, if we every day try to contemplate about it, probably brain will use unnecessarily some energy which is not required for some menial jobs like teeth brushing. So brain conserves energy by making our daily activities automatic. So brain is in its autopilot in its daily activity. So if you try to change the habit, you have to break the network. So change of habit requires new neural connect. And if you change it, suppose some people say that, well, tomorrow onwards I'll change it. Mentally decide. But they fail to make it because it relapses. Change habit has to be set as a default behavior. It should not be a contemplated behavior. Every time you do that, you think about it and then you do it. It must be a default behavior. But the problem is that for the default behavior, brain requires the same kind of reward every time. And if your brain gets the same reward for change, then probably it becomes a default behavior. So motivation initiates change. Psychologically speaking, if you want to do it, it's fine. But as long you do not develop a habit, it can't be sustained. Your willingness, your intent part is very good. Your content is very good. Your context is also very good. But as long it doesn't convert it to a changed habit, it will not be sustained. So in order to adapt to new behavior, suppose hand washing, face masking, we have to do it probably for a longer period of time. That's what is my emphasis. The brain will, our body will resist the moment you try to do a change. As I said, it's a natural process. Either psychologically speaking, if I give my child a suggestion, the first thing he encounters is a resistance. Body also resists because body is in a state of equilibrium, and body doesn't want that equilibrium to be disturbed. And the area in the brain, which is called basal ganglia, which is in the central part of the brain, it's responsible for varying the habits. The neural network actually takes place for executing certain kinds of habits. And then the insight actually comes from the prefrontal lobe, which is in this particular lobe. But the problem is that prefrontal lobe requires more and more energy on every day. Now, if it requires every day, it would not be able to allocate resources for other activities. Therefore, it must go back to the level of basal ganglia. For example, if you know cycling or if you know swimming, even if you do not execute it for a longer period of time, you would be able to do it after 30 years, after 40 years. I have seen people even doing it after 50 years. I have seen my father, who used to cycle to his school at his childhood, but before his death some days back, he says that I did it at 60 years of age. The gap was over 50 years and he never had to cycle in between. So it's called procedural learning, and that learning doesn't take place at the prefrontal level where the brain is most active and where the energy is maximally conserved. When I talk of energy, is the glucose metabolism, and we can check it through functional magnetic resonance imaging. Through that magnet, we understand which part is getting maximally activated in prefrontal cortex. So until and unless you go back to the default mode is in the basal ganglia, and that default mode is very important in order to change your habit, whatever you would like to do. That's the science behind it. But how we get to know all about this? The actual research started in the 1950s by someone called Maltz. Maltz was a neurosurgeon. His job was to amputate the leg or long limbs actually at that point of time, either hands, legs, whatever, being an accident or a disease or a gangrene. So he used to amputate leg or hand. But then he found that even after hand is amputated, as I'm showing you in this photograph, the person develops some kind of pain in the amputated hand. The hand is no more there, but he or she feels the pain. How does it happen? So he found that even if the limb is not there, the brain sends energy. Brain activities doesn't stop. The neural senses doesn't stop. So people develop the sense of pain even after amputation at that particular level. Today, there are a lot of therapies have come up. The mirror therapies, the people are forcibly made aware that you do not have amputated hand, and they try to reduce it. But it takes at least 21 days, at least, to dissolve an old mental image. So if I have a habit, I would require at least 21 days. So we have to keep doing it consciously, at least for 21 days, if we have to develop real and habit. But if we have to push it to the level of basal ganglia, as I said, you require 2 months. So brain develops this automatic habit. If it has to be in its autopilot, it will take at least 2 months, precisely 62 days that has been told in the research, about 62 days that it requires in order to change your habit, if your brain has to do it in automatic way. So today, many of the people, those who are compliant to rules, they find that going elsewhere outside, it requires a face mask. And they don't need to instruct their brain repeatedly. So new habit initially comes by commitment, and that commitment has to be at least 21 days. But if you can maintain it for 2 months, then definitely that will go. A lot of people come and tell that I want to get rid of cigarette. I mean, those who are smokers. They have got a lot of motivation, they have got a lot of commitment. But the commitment and motivation doesn't help you get rid of it. They require the science behind it. They have to repeat it for at least 2 months. And then the process, of course, I'm not going to tell you right now because I do not have enough time to tell about it. Anybody who has got interest, I'll definitely let them know. But the problem, psychological problem, is that why can't we do it? Why most of us fail to do it? Why most of us fail to do it? Because we believe either we can change the behavior totally or we cannot. We believe it in a all or none theory. It actually leads us to no-win situation. Nothing is called 1 or 0. Nothing is binary all or none. You have to actually follow the toolbox. If you neglect toolbox and try to change too much, suppose somebody is smoking cigarette over a period of time for last 10 years. And if he says that tomorrow onwards I am not going to do it, he would not be able to do it or anything of that sort. Because if you try to do it too much, it's not possible. We underestimate the process and do not stick to pace because we know that in order to do it, you have to do it for 21 days, at least initially, and then you have to continue up to 60 days. That pace has to be maintained. Some people, those who do not wear face mask, as this picture has been suggesting, only 44% of the Indians are actually using face mask. Not everybody is doing it. Not that people can't afford it. Almost everybody can afford it, or if they cannot afford it, governmental agencies have been providing for that. Many people don't do that. They believe that their identity is getting lost. So I meet some people in the market, tech market, and the moment they talk to me, they pull their face mask down with the fear that their identity would be lost while they change habit. Many of them also, as I said last time, suffer from some kind of optimism bias. They believe that, well, everybody else will get corona, I'll not get corona. So that's called optimism bias. Much of our diseases in this country, we do not go for doctors or health check simply because we believe that I'll not get it. If somebody else is smoking, they will get cancer, I'll not get cancer. So let everybody suffer from that disease. I will not get that. This is called optimism bias. After pandemic, what will happen? Suppose tomorrow pandemic is over. 2 months down the line, as WHO has also been saying from time to time, what will happen? Will I be able to leave behind the contamination obsession for, permanently? It will also take time. It will not leave us so quickly. The pandemic may go, but the obsession may not go. The obsession may take shape of other forms as well. We may develop other kinds of obsession. So let us be very clear that it's very easy to insert paranoia that you are going to get it, you are going to get it. So be careful, be careful. Mothers always tell about the children, be careful, be careful. They don't understand at times that how to debrief them. Otherwise, what will happen? This paranoia and obsession will actually replace contamination obsession with other forms of obsession. And in this time, our baseline have changed. The way we used to live, which I said as a lifestyle, our baseline has changed. Our habits have been atrophied. If our habits was to do exercise in the morning or going for a walk outside, our habits may have changed, atrophied. So even if the corona goes, it will not go. Our interests have changed. Our priorities needs to be reset. Many of us are getting comfort in flight syndrome. That is, it's better not to go to the business or office because by now in 2 years we have developed a habit, and changing this habit becomes a different kind of problem, altogether a different kind of problem. That is, once we developed a new habit, now changing the new habit and go back to the old habit, like as I said, getting comfort in the flight syndrome, is a different kind of problem. We need to be cautious about that. And a proximity stress, because we have been staying together. I mean, we have been forced to stay together over a period of time. The natural belongingness barrier has come. The way we used to be compassionate, we call compassion fatigue and belongingness barrier, because we have got we all our value systems start with the family, with the parents, with the seniors, with the social hierarchy, and because we have been staying over a period of time, the distance is lost, and as a result of which belongingness barrier has come up, and many of us will continue to have that behavior fatigue we used to do here. So, how to reset the baseline? It is important to understand that stress is inevitable in pandemic, but suffering is optional. Not everybody suffered. We may have had pandemic stress for everybody, but everybody did not suffer. Why? Some people did not suffer. It's time to think. We have to reinvent ourselves. We have to think differently. Instead of thinking different things, we have to think differently. People who did not suffer despite the pandemic stress because they processed information differently. So it's not about some habits always. The kind of input you are giving to your brain, you have to process information differently. Rather than trying to listen and becoming suggestible for every kind of challenges or stress that you have to process information differently. If disciplines create habit, if pandemic goes away, novelty will give you new target. You will get new friends. You will get new circle. As long you do not realize that novelty, surprise element in your life is also a good thing, rather than only discipline and having some kind of non-flexible situation, I think it's better to also think about the novelty. Find pleasure in simple things. It's a choice for you. Don't make it a compulsion, and fine-tune your social relationship, because intimacy matters. In pandemic, you must have seen who has really helped you and who could not do it. You can reorganize your thought process, and your brain is formatted actually in that sense. So intimacy is a very important thing. And that intimacy, if that core value of intimacy is not within you, you will not be able to go for some kind of kindness, which I call senseless act of beauty. That is inner call for kindness. You have to be kind with people because everybody suffered. And if you are a superior person, you should be able to have that kind of kindness in your mind. So some way out, this is my last slide, some way out, you take the initiative rather than others take the initiative and you act passively. You nudge yourself, because nudging is a technique, as I said. Instead of giving direct suggestions, you nudge yourself or you nudge others. The photograph that I'm showing you, it's in Visakhapatnam. I mean, people have been found that they are maintaining social distance when they see things on the wall. This is called nudging. Nudging is a theory based on which Richard Thaler got Nobel Prize in 2014. It's a wonderful theory. It tells that don't give suggestions to people. Only take their attention to small events without forcing, without removing option. Do not compel them to act. Only allow them to see certain events. There are several things we have been teaching in nudging. How Europe has changed their toilet policy by nudging. If time permits, someday I'll talk about it. That's one way you can nudge yourself constantly. You can give yourself some kind of input signal constantly. People mirror each other. There are brain nerves called mirror neuron. I mean, Professor Ramachandran was basically an Indian but settled in America, whose name was also being, nominated for Nobel Prize but could not get it. He actually found that we yawn seeing others yawning. We behave seeing what others have been doing. It's called mirroring. is there are separate knobs which is in the prefrontal area of the brain called mirror neuron. They actually allow you to imitate certain behavior unconsciously, and that becomes part of your habit. So if you do it, you are not only doing it for yourself, you are doing it for 10 other people in the hostel. And you can also continue to get some kind of inspiration through innovation. You see this lady in Gujarat, she invented this kind of tap which you do not require to handle. Actually, you just push it through your elbow and water will flow. It's a small innovation. So grassroots solution to everyday challenges, everyday hassle is possible by all of us. Any habit that we need to, we have seen in one hostel that people used to keep cycle in a altogether chaotic manner. So with a simple nudge, we could change the entire set of habits. And that was a part of the project. We did it and we found that your innovation capabilities can make a big difference. So with all this, let me tell you, change is a gift of time. We need to embrace it. If you are continuously trying to grow, you can grow, but you will never perceive the growth. But if you have to make a change, you have to stop growth. You have to arrest growth. Make a qualitative change in your thought process, and then only we grow. So during pandemic, we could stop our thought process and make a perfect change for the next set of life that we are going to embrace. Thank you so much.